gained experience in handling the machine. I found that I could stop for a day, an hour, or even for a second to observe.
And you've used my machine to escape the ends of justice.
I must congratulate you on that device. I confess that at dinner the other century, I thought you'd lost your wits. But fate intervened and forced me to ascertain for myself that you are truly the Columbus of a new age.
I challenge!
Trial by stone.
Trial by stone! Holy cat. Hey. It's almost...
Yeah. Almost a perfect...
It is. It's round.
We finally got one.
We found a flying saucer.
He ain't tying me up.
Then I'll have to kill you, child.
Then kill me.
I mean it.
I guess you do.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mark Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land. Over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display. Check.
5,
Lasers. Check.
4,
Particle beam. Check.
3,
Proton bolts. Check.
2,
Chair control. Check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley, this is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start.
Hello, and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. I'm Amber Lewis, and I will be your host this evening as we continue our science fiction month. 2 years ago, we talked about Steven Spielberg's adaptation of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. And tonight we are asking you to set your time travel devices for New Year's Eve in the year 1899 as we discuss George Pal's 1960 adaptation of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. Joining me on our trip to the year 802,701 are Robert Burnett. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for having me.
And Disney John. Welcome, John.
Hi, welcome back again, or the first time, or whatever it is in this time stream.
Right? This is also kind of like our own little mini time travel episode within an episode, taking us back to circa 2016 when we were all working at the Disney store together.
It sure does. Yeah.
This crazy Christmas times. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Maybe, better left forgotten. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this time of year at least, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Post, no. Pre, I don't mind.
Yeah. So, but for tonight's movie, The Time Machine, it is a story about how a man's vision for a utopian society is disillusioned when traveling forward into time reveals a dark and dangerous society. Let's start by listening to the trailer.
Such stories as H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds and Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea have challenged mankind. So today, man is successfully probing deep into the mysteries of the universe. Can he penetrate the greatest mystery of all, time itself? Creative magic of George Pal and the fabulous production know-how of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer to catapult you through time into a world that is yet to be.
Why is it that we usually ignore the fourth dimension? You see, we can move in the other three. As the doctor said, up, down, forwards, backwards, sideways. But when it comes to time, we are prisoners.
Inventor Rod Taylor's breakthrough into the realm of the fourth dimension is defied by his friend Alan Young.
If that machine can do what you say it can, destroy it, George, before it destroys you.
Every moment is a year, hurtling through the atomic wars of the future on an incredible excursion into the unknown. What are the people like? The Shape of Things to Come. It's lovely Yvette Mimieux. And what happens when boy meets girl thousands of years hence?
How do they wear their hair?
Who?
The women of your time.
Up like that?
Show me.
Is this the human race of the future? Or is this the Morlocks, fiendish creatures who live in a weird underground world? And the Eloi, the tranquil sunshine people, who the Morlocks dominate and maintain like cattle, luring them below with the hypnotic wail of the sirens, to feed upon them in cannibalistic horror.
Okay, and some opening thoughts, including where and when you first saw this film. Disney John, why don't you start us off?
I don't remember when I first saw it. I remember
I don't
seeing,
either.
I mean, like I could not even begin to tell you. I do remember seeing it. I had to have been preteen and watched it on TV. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. The Morlocks are ingrained in your brain.
Oh my gosh.
You're right. So I mean, I remember that clearly, but I couldn't begin to tell you when I first watched it. I don't know. But it was definitely I was definitely still with my parents. I was definitely still a kid. Like I could not go out by myself, kid, right? I mean, I was definitely young. And yeah, I don't know. And then just having recently rewatched it, I have to say, I think the movie still holds up well. And the pacing was great, and we'll talk more about that later.
All right. Robert, how about you?
I do remember when I saw it. I was with my cousins, and my cousin Dana had seen it, and I had not seen it. He might have seen it in the theater, but in some revival or something. But we were little, but he is older than me, and saw it on TV. And the Morlocks scared the crap out of me. They were the most horrifying thing ever at the time. But my real distinct memory, besides the Morlocks, was that during the commercial breaks, my older cousin Dana would keep like punking me. And so I said something about like his sister Nancy, and he's like, I don't have a sister, and he kept like doing the different things, like we were time traveling and he was kind of an ass, but
what a stinker.
Love you, Dana.
Gosh.
But yeah, there were all kinds of fun little things. I can't remember them all, except pretty much every commercial break, he would come up with some new version of, I didn't have a mother, or we weren't actually cousins, we were brothers, or all these different like timelines. And gullible little me cried a great deal, I think.
Oh my God, that's evil.
But we're still blood, still cousins. It's all good. So.
Well, you didn't have an older brother to give you a hard time, so
yeah. No, I was the older brother, and believe me, that's another story. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. So if I get a little weirdly emotional during this, or start to like cry randomly,
I have like some PTSD.
Little Bobby being psyched out of his mind.
Oh my God,
that's so mean.
Oh, that's so horrible. Well, like I said, with I agree with John. I don't remember the time I first saw this. It was one of those like Sunday afternoon movies on Channel 19 that I'd end up watching with like my dad or probably my Uncle Jeff. Like when we go over to my grandma's for Sunday dinner, like we would end up in the TV room watching one of these weird movies, and so I'm pretty sure that I was probably about 5 or 6. And, it's on every year and you watch it, and it's just kind of the fabric of movie watching when I was a kid. But I do agree that it does hold up, and the Morlocks are probably one of the scariest inventions I think ever.
Blue cannibal people.
Right. With the glowing eyes, though. That was my thing.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
All right, now it is time for That's the Fact, Jack. Disney John, what production info do you have for us?
So for production notes, I have The Time Machine in 1960 was produced by and directed by George Powell and is a classic science fiction film based on the H.G. Wells's novel 1895 novella of the same name. The movie, which stars Rod Taylor as the time traveler, was celebrated for its innovative visual effects, particularly the depiction of time travel using stop motion photography and elaborate miniature models. Powell, a pioneer in special effects, employed practical techniques to bring Wells's vision of time and space to life, earning the film an Academy Award for Best Special Effects. The iconic design of the time machine itself, with its ornate brass and crystal structure, became an enduring symbol of the genre, embodying the elegance and wonder of mid-20th century science fiction filmmaking. George Powell, originally from Hungary, was a visionary producer and director renowned for his contributions to science fiction and fantasy cinema, known for such films as Destination Moon, 1950, and War of the Worlds, 1953. Powell was a master of innovative effects of storytelling. He frequently utilized his backgrounds in animation and pioneering of puppetoons to push the boundaries of visual effects, helping to define the aesthetics of 1950s and 60s sci-fi cinema. Powell's work on the Time Machine cemented his legacy as a creative force who blended technical artistry with imaginative storytelling. I won't go on. Well, do you want to know more? Because I've got something about the screenwriter, David Duncan.
Yeah.
He adapted H.G. Wells's novella for the screen, streamlining the narrative out to suit cinematic storytelling while retaining its core theme of human progress and social decay. Duncan, who often worked in science fiction, brought a deep understanding of the genre to the script. His work on the Time Machine showcased his ability to balance adventure and thought-provoking ideas, ensuring the story's philosophical undertones resonated with audiences of the era. Duncan's collaboration with Powell resulted in a film that honored the original text while making it accessible and engaging for contemporary viewers. And I would say it still holds up today. Like we said, I found it engaging. I found it it does show like the social woes of moving forward through time. Yeah, it's good moving. Good adaptation.
It's a little like Red Peril for me watching it. It's like, the communist collective is going to cause you to be eaten, but that was the time period.
Oh, it was.
Robert, do you have any facts or trivia that you would like to share? You're gonna hit me up with the H.G. Wells Broadway connection.
No, I
Ah!
I'm
I
so
don't really
disappointed.
have one this time. Actually, there was a concept album for a Broadway show called War of the Worlds by, I think it was Wakeman, but I don't remember exactly. But no, I was just my little weird trivia tie-in thing to this, and it jumps ahead to, I think it's our May offering of Disney films. I was freaking out when I watched it this time. Like every single one of the main actors has a connection to a Disney film. Like
Really?
within 2 or 3 years, Rod Taylor, our time traveler, was the voice of Pongo in 101 Dalmatians, the next year. Sebastian Cabot, who is one of his friends at the beginning with the beard, one of his Wells's friends, was Bagheera and a bunch of other characters for Disney. He was in Jungle Book. Alan Young, of course, Philby was Scrooge McDuck in everything.
Oh my Lord.
For Disney. And even Yvette Mimieux, who is not much of an actress and not known for much anymore, she did The Black Hole. She was in that movie too. So, and even Paul Frees, who did the voice for the trailer and of the little twirly ring things that like the little encyclopedia of jewelry, whatever they were. Paul Frees, of course, did so many Disney voices. He's the ghost host in the Haunted Mansion, and he's the pirate captain in Pirates of the Caribbean. So I'm like watching this movie with my eyes closed, going, my God, this is like a 1960s Disney time travel cartoon of its own, because you've got all these voice artists all playing off each other. So that was weird. So it's a little fun fact. And George Powell was fascinating because he actually, his Puppetoon stop motion cartoons were hugely groundbreaking in the 1940s. He created the technique in the 1930s, came to America like a lot of the Europeans did during the war years to get away from World War II, and better film opportunities, honestly, in Hollywood versus, Hungary and Europe. Yeah. But the sad thing is, his main character in all these Puppetoons, and he won Oscars. He got an honorary Oscar. He was not quite at the Disney level, but his Puppetoons were close in terms of recognition and popularity. We don't know much about them these days because his main character was a little black boy, or as they said, pickaninny, named Jasper. And
wow,
these they are delightful cartoons if you can get past the fact that his mammy is like a mammy, and like it is like parade of stereotypes and racist tropes, but in these really delightful, fun little cartoons. So so there was a collection that came out on DVD and probably Blu-ray about 10 years ago called like The Best of Puppetoons, with basically no artwork on the box, so you would know what it was at all. It was one of those like,
oh wow,
if you know things, before that was a phrase.
Yeah.
And they're great to watch. They're funny. They're technically really proficient, but they're just total cringe in terms of the content. So
yeah.
I mean, Powell is now best known probably for this film and maybe the Mother Goose one, and his stuff for War of the Worlds. But he had this amazing, great career for a decade or more prior to when he turned to the live action science fiction films. It just for reasons that are sad but true. They were just not of our time, so they don't have the audience that maybe they would have if he had been doing work like Disney or some of the other animators from that era.
Wow, that is fascinating. My trivia is just a little more commonplace. I love the practical effects. So I was very interested, especially having just been to LA and ridden the Universal movie ride, which is just my favorite thing. The London lava flow in this movie was red dyed oatmeal, which I was like, you've got to be kidding. And really, even knowing, like, when you're watching, you're like, it doesn't look too bad.
No, it looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good. The sequence of the London Blitz, if you're a fan of the 1953 War of the Worlds movie, you'll see it immediately. The scene of the London Blitz is using sequences from War of the Worlds for the buildings blowing up. And if you look closely in the talking rings scene, when they first walk in, you see machinery on the wall in the background, and that is all from Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory in the old Universal Frankenstein movie.
Oh, wow.
So I love all this like reusing of sets and backlots and, scene pieces.
They were much more frugal, I think, during those times.
There is, I forget his name, and I will try and find it so Dayton can put it in the notes, but there's this documentary filmmaker who is just this weirdo obsessed with old Hollywood movies. And he makes these little short, like 8, 12, 15-minute films. And he will take a painting or a stairway or a piece of furniture or whatever. One of them was about a balcony piece, and finds them in all these old movies.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so the documentary is like, and here's the picture of the woman. It's in the background in this movie you've seen 20 times. Here it's in the art gallery scene, and over here it's in the pawn shop scene, and showing how they reuse stuff. And his one on the balcony is great because it was mainly used at MGM, but they lent it out. But they built like a set of like the interior of a theater. So whenever people were going to the movies or going to the opera or going to the ballet or anything, they would whip out this set and use it over and over and over again. And even other studios would like borrow the pieces of it. And so he goes through this sequence where he like cuts together, I don't know, it's like 11 different films. Some are color, some are black and white. And it's like, there it is. It's like it's so fun. So yeah, I love old movies for finding those little bits and pieces. But this guy, and I will find his name until so Dayton can put it in the notes, makes these wonderful little short documentaries where he's like, seen this? I mean, even weird stuff like you wouldn't think would be used. The hourglass from The Wizard of Oz that the Wicked Witch has. It's so like giant. Gargoyle things on it, all that. It turned up in like 3 or 4 other movies around that same time. They're like, get the hourglass, and then they would whip out the hourglass for whatever movie they were doing. And
oh my golly,
yeah. So love the economy of the studio system, so I'm not surprised at all that it was oatmeal and reused
Right.
visuals from all the world, because why not? We've got it. We've got it sitting here. Why not use it again?
Yes, exactly. Well, and I was bummed because it was the MGM backlot and not Universal, so I didn't get to see any of this. But like the scene where you see Philby's store,
Yeah.
if you can just peek around the corner, that's the street where Gene Kelly did Singing in the Rain.
Oh, wow.
So if you could just tilt a little bit, it's like right there.
Framing. It's all about
Yes,
framing.
it is.
Well, I had one Easter egg, and since neither of you mentioned it, I will.
All right.
I don't know if you noticed that there's a nameplate on George's time machine that says H.G. Wells or H. George Wells on the nameplate. A subtle nod. And then another scene, which I found fascinating, and I found this out. So the mannequin scene where the mannequin changes clothes over time,
Yes, love
they
it.
actually used a real actress in certain shots of that to give it this surreal feel and look. And now I need to go back and watch. No, and now I need to go back and watch it again because I found this one today after I had lost my Xbox for the day. So it was like, I was like, wait a minute, really? So now I got to go back and go to the scene and watch it, because I remember watching it going like, oh, this is like really cool. Is that a real person? And then it was like, no, that's a mannequin, obviously. And then I was like, I don't know, that seems like a real person. So now I want to go back and see the real person now that I know that it's there. So
yes,
I thought that was really cool. And then the last thing, not so much trivia, but something that was talked about or I found that was interesting was the Cold War fears during this time came through at the scene with the nuclear explosion, and it was kind of like this subtle play, like, hey guys, look, this is what's happening today. This is our social commentary on
well,
today.
yeah, because he had only gone forward to 66.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
At that
I know,
point,
which is terrifying, but
yes,
like whatever. Bay of
But
Pigs.
I love that in movies where like the movie is made in like 1980 and they go ahead to 2012 and
it's like 2012. Really, that's
we're
it.
supposed to be having
Well, doesn't he go
cars
forward in time to like, I don't know, several 100,000 years in time or something like that?
That's
yeah,
at the end, yeah.
Our final stop with the Eloy is the year 800,000.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and of course, in the book, he goes even past that. And it gets really creepy and disturbing. And so yeah, that
he sees the sun go supernova and
yeah.
Which how he came back from that one, I'm not sure, but
he was in his protected bubble of time and space.
Yes, exactly.
That was totally wicked!
Now it is time for That Was Totally Wicked, a segment where we discuss what we like about the film. So, Robert, why don't you start us off? What were some things that you liked about the movie?
Well, I think we've already touched on a few because it's a very likable film. But I will start with the special effects and just kind of the tone of the movie. And first of all, I love practical effects always versus CG, which obviously wasn't an option then. Right. But it's funny because I was afraid watching this after not seeing it for a while. It was going to look really dated. And the thing about it is that it doesn't, in the sense that it's all kind of a piece. If you, I think about it, like I think about like the Wizard of Oz, where it's all the kind of the same kind of artificial, so it all looks like it belongs together. So nothing takes you out of it, and really nothing in this film, for me, took me out of it to where I said, "Oh, that's so fake," or "That's so terrible." Now, granted, the special effects are not what we would see today, or what we could probably do with AI on our own computers if we wanted to, but it was stylistically, it was all of a piece. It all looked like it belonged together, whether they were doing stop motion, whether they were doing the weird color changes in the film processing. It all matched,
even like when he goes to 1966 and Philby is in his like special suit and trying to get him into the fallout shelter, like that suit doesn't look crazy weird.
No. And so I like that it held up because, like I said, it's a little world, and once you kind of accept what the look of the film and the lighting and the effects are, it doesn't pop that bubble. So it works in that sense. So I really like that. And so it didn't seem dated to me at all. Um, and I thought the social commentary was not as heavy-handed as it could have been. I mean, for
Yeah.
heaven's sake, 1960, we're just coming into the coldest part of the Cold War and all that. The movie could have been much more heavy-handed, especially coming from H.G. Wells, who was a socialist and very, I mean, many of his books are riddled through with political commentary as well as exciting, invasions from Mars and stuff. But I did not mind that at all. And weirdly, although I've never liked him in anything else, I thought Robert Taylor or Rod Taylor, sorry, was really good in this. Because he was
never liked him in anything else. I love him.
He's that. Well, it's not so much him; it's kind of his type. He just is that like clunky
sexy?
wooden actor of like that late 50s, early 60s, where there were all these boring, interchangeable guys with no personalities. I mean,
oh, you're insane.
And in this, I thought it worked because it made him kind of an everyman. He didn't have to be dashing and sexy or super.
He was. He just is dashing and sexy. You're insane.
Well,
oh my gosh.
as he wished, but no, I mean, comparing it with like Time After Time, which we either did or will talk about depending on how your settings are set. I mean, Malcolm McDowell was very idiosyncratic as that time traveler, even though he was portraying Wells. But Taylor was just very neutral. I mean, even all his friends around the dinner table at the opening scene, they were all kind of like caricatures and kind of stuffy and weird and pompous and silly or whatever. And he just was this sort of like, to me, kind of like bland everyman. He was, rugged, and he was action packed, and he kissed the girl, he did all the things, but he was not really distinct or vivid, and so it made him to me a much better leading man. When the rest of the story is so ridiculous and out there, to have somebody just kind of ordinary as your
oh my gosh
main actor.
We knew it wouldn't be long before you'd be wrong about something. So
there you go. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. But
oh
anyway,
my goodness.
Those were a couple of the things I love about the film, but I think I need to turn it over before I say more wrong things.
Yeah, you're cut off. So, John, how about you?
Dang, I don't know. I'm afraid to go
Give
now.
me your best shot, pal.
Okay. Well, for me, I kept mine mine's pretty simple. So, I loved the pacing of this movie, right? I mean, there was action throughout. It was well paced. Like, my main problem with older movies is the slow, belagered pace that you trod through a movie or a story, and you finally get to the end. You're like, okay, now where's the rest of it? Because now you finally got to the interesting part. So I thought this was great just from beginning to end. It was really well paced. I enjoyed it. There was a good, nice ending. Like, it just had a good start, middle, and end. It was just really well paced. As far as like my favorite part, and I'm with Robert on this, this has to do with special effects, but I mean, that's what a lot of this movie was about and why it won an Academy Award for it. The mannequin scene. I mean, I really enjoyed it's showing you the eras of time without showing you the eras of time. I thought it was fascinating to watch the dresses change and how short they got, how long they got, how poofy they got. I just loved it. I mean, I could watch that over and over because it was just so simple a way to display how fast he's going through time. It was wonderful. Really liked that part.
It was something recognizable that audiences then would recognize. So it was not complicated or far-fetched. They're like, oh yeah, those were old-timey clothes, and oh, grandma wore that. Oh yeah, I remember mom wore that. Oh, look, that, so it was a nice way to introduce a really kind of far out absurd concept in a way that was so kind of down to earth, literally, that it was like you could believe it. You're like, oh yeah, I get it. Years are passing. Totally.
Well, especially when he first goes forward like a year.
Right.
And he's like, what is that dress? That I don't even know. And you, as a more knowledgeable audience member, can go like, oh, you just wait, pal.
Yeah, wait, mister.
Wait until we get to show our legs. Like, you're not going to believe it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's the truth.
They drew the line at putting her in pants, but yeah.
Yes, but I was like, for me, I thought that was probably that I found that totally wicked. Like, honestly, that fits this segment perfectly. It was totally wicked how they performed that entire scene, the setup, and it went from like showing her get undressed to redressed to undressed to redressed to just then it was the fashions just changing out, and it was so brilliantly done. It was seamless. It was easy to do. Oh my God, yeah. And everybody would recognize it, especially from that time. And then when you go to the future dresses, it's not far-fetched. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like whack-a-noodle designs or anything like that. It was just extrapolations on what has already happened, which really does happen. So I mean, yeah. But yeah, that's what I've found to be totally wicked about this show.
Well, I have to agree with the travel sequence is like my favorite part, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, my favorite part of the movie. And I also found it interesting that this time around, learning that when he looks at the apple tree and he sees it blossom and then grow into apples, that was actually hand painted on a cell.
Oh, really? The apples?
Yeah, and then like filmed in stop motion.
Oh my.
So watching that, where the buds blossom and then they fade and then the apples grow, like that really caught my attention this time around because I did not know that before. I don't know if I even thought of how they did it or if I don't know, thought that maybe they did it with like clay or something, but that was actually hand painted on cells.
I would have never guessed.
But I love the time machine itself. I think it is such an elegant craft. I think it's missing a few things as far as like the function. Like just pull the lever. This seems like
Pull the lever, Crunk. Wrong lever!
Huh?
Why do we even have that lever?
Oh, the lever. Sorry, wrong show.
Okay, I know. I was
Wrong
like,
episode.
Dayton, please enter the sound. Wrong lever. But how do we feel about, as beautiful as it is, like there's no explanation as to how it works, or like we get a lot of that in Back to the Future.
He did science-y things. I didn't care how it worked.
Like he didn't even talk about the crystal. He's just like, you pull this lever and off you go.
Yeah.
We don't need nuts and bolts, people. We just need it to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like we just need it. Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way. I feel like the more you try to explain it and make it real, the more then my brain starts picking apart all the flaws in that logic, Well,
and it also goes to what John said about pace. The pace of the movie, if it bogged down or slowed down at all to where you had time to think about it, you'd be like, no, this is dumb, or this doesn't make sense. Or to your point, like, why is it a crystal and not but they just kind of like, and it's a time machine. Got it? Okay. Now we're traveling. Now we're going. It's just like they give you what you need. It's very efficient. It's storytelling. They don't go down the rabbit hole or the wormhole or whatever it would be in this film for
because I feel like
it all works. Doesn't matter how it works.
I feel like that's a modern day explanation is how does it work? Like we need to know the hows nowadays. And back then it was just like hit the I believe button. Yep, it works. Let's go.
Yes, and then I'm just going to throw in before we move on that Rod Taylor is all things in this movie. I think he's completely sexy and exciting and charismatic, and it's his movie, and I love everything about him. So
I thought Philby was more charismatic, but okay.
Well, we can get into that later, but I'm just saying, Rod Taylor is all the things.
No, sir, I didn't like it.
All right, it is time for No, Sir, I Didn't Like It. And let me tell you, buckle up, because I've got a list. For as much as I love this movie.
What?
As much as I love this movie, I have like 5 things. So we're going to talk about things that we don't like or that just don't work in the film. Disney John, why don't you lead us off? What does anything doesn't work for you?
Not honestly, not much. There's minor nitpicks and stuff like that. Like I thought I'm with Robert. He probably explained it the best. I felt that George was a little stilted, a little wooden, I think is how you put it. And I'm not saying he was bad. He felt wooden. He didn't feel like Harrison Ford.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I know. Think about the two and compare the two. I mean, this is an adventure action movie.
He's the 1960s Harrison Ford for me.
Oh, I disagree.
I'm saying.
No, he was the co-1960s like Burt West or something, you know.
Yeah.
Adam West. He was like the Adam
West.
West.
Is not Adam West.
Yeah,
you got to come up with a better comparison than that.
Well, Adam
he's
West,
better looking than Adam West, but he basically was like just that I'm a macho guy who could do action things, and there's like no brain waves and no thought process visible and no apparent acting, just a lot of running and punching and saying words, and it works, but it's
not true.
Well, that's
he
how
does so much great work when it's just a voiceover and he has to kind of show you.
But we're not doing a voiceover here. We're not doing a voiceover. We're talking about
when
the man
he's traveling through time.
Okay, sure. So I'm
not saying he can't speak. I'm saying he can't act.
No,
there's a difference. He cannot physically act. He is a great voice actor.
Fine. I'm taking over this because if we're going to talk about people that can't act, then why, for the love of God, is Yvette Mimieux in this movie? Because
she's gorgeous.
She is a completely lobotomized, like, breathing sack of meat. Like, I cannot stand her at all. Like, I can't stand her in The Black Hole. She almost ruins that movie for me. She almost ruins this movie for me. I can remember being a kid and asking my Uncle Jeff, like, what is wrong with that girl? And him trying to explain to me that she's supposed to be innocent or whatever. And I'm like, no, she's just dumb. And he's like, well, but she's in the movie because she's pretty. And I was like, no, and she's not that either. Like, she's horrible.
I second everything you say. And we'll
virtual high five. We're back to being friends again.
Boom. I'll expand on that and say that was, along with one of the smaller, one quibble as John would have it. But my biggest did not like was her at the top of the pyramid, but on top of the pyramid of a lot of other Eloi. The blonde plastic wigs, ridiculous. The fact that they all seemed like they were developmentally disabled. I can't even say it. I'm so worked up about this. They weren't just like innocent and carefree. They were like lobotomized. I mean, except when they weren't. Like, there's all those scenes in the dining room area, a little dome thing where they're all eating, biting giant hot pink gourds and stuff. And like the ones in the background are like chatting and laughing and like having reactions. And then the one at our close-up table are all just like dead-eyed zombies.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I even could have gone with like happy and childlike or dead-eye zombie, but they're kind of like one thing in one scene, one another. Is like the ones that were closer to the camera got direction and everyone else in the background to do whatever the hell they wanted.
Which was far more interesting.
Yeah, but the pastel costumes and the like blonde Aryan plastic wigs, just no part of the Eloi worked for me at all. I just thought they were cloying and obnoxious, and I kind of wanted them all to be eaten by the Morlocks.
Right? Because I wasn't too sad about it. I can't.
Well, I will.
Yeah, but Yvette was the pinnacle of everything bad, and I was like, what is her deal? Because I only know her from a couple movies. So I actually was like reading about her, and apparently she was not an actress when she was discovered for this film. She was blonde and curvy, and so someone saw her on a sidewalk and said, be in a movie, like they did back then. And she tried to learn to act while they were filming the movie. So some of her scenes, they actually shot at the end of the filming period of the couple months they were filming, because she had gotten better at her acting after trying it for a few weeks. I guess the earlier shots they took of her were unwatchable. But I'm like,
I mean, can you imagine?
And I know, but I'm like, but she is, and I think maybe that's partly why I have that visceral reaction to Taylor is like, what does he see in her?
That's what I was gonna say. It makes
he's a brilliant man
George's
of science.
interest in Weena like creepy and kind of like pedophilic because he's older than her anyway, and she's like completely like brainless. So like, what is attracting you about this person? What is the matter with you?
The idea that they would be like naive or innocent or even unable to kind of fend for themselves, I could buy all that on paper, but what we saw was just weird and like, I don't know. I kept thinking like it was all second unit, like some director who wasn't George Powell was there going, run through the fields and look happy. And now, I don't know, go down to the river and splash. I don't know, do something. And it's like, they are absolutely the weakest link of the film. My other little one is just a tiny quibble and it's more personal taste than anything else, but not a fan of the music of this movie, the score.
I was thinking that towards the end, it was really starting to bug me.
Yeah, well, it was very obtrusive, and it also it's the style I don't like. It's almost the same kind of music that the Twilight Zone used. It's that like kind of 1960s jangly, weird little trumpet sounds and bongos and
big loud stings and
exactly, and it just the Twilight Zone episodes do it a lot too, and I don't mind it so much in that show, but it just was this thing in like the early 60s where I guess they were trying to be modern or hip or whatever hip, and I don't like the style of it anyway, but it is super intrusive, especially toward the end of the film because so I would have liked it with a different score, would have sat better, especially because so much of the movie is told visually, like the time travel scenes, and a lot of the stuff is there's not a lot of dialogue in this movie except for the narration, and so to have that much music that I just personally don't care for that kind of music, and I did not think it served the picture very well.
So, John, did you have anything else? I cut you off because you got your hand slapped.
I will go back to the Eloy, and I will put it into the 1960s view because that's where this movie came from. I think so. To me, Weena is not necessarily the weak. I think the Eloy as a whole are the weakest link of this movie. I don't care if you're 800,000 years in the future, your entire civilization is dead and gone and starting to come back, and they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, but they sure as hell understand when somebody's drowning. Okay.
Right?
I mean,
especially right next to them.
The non-reactions of everyone watching or not watching this person float down the river was astonishing to me. I'm sorry. There is a fight or flight.
Especially because, a scene or two later, when they're in with the Morlocks, they're all having genuine reactions of fear or terror or and when Wells is yelling at them to grab the torch and throw down the fire and run over here, they all kind of get it pretty fast. So I mean, they're not lobotomized exactly, but you would think so from that scene where they're watching her drown and they're just like,
it's not
like they're standing there helpless saying we don't know how to save her.
No,
it's just they're just like apathetic.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even apathetic. Apathetic at least gives you some kind of feeling. I mean, they didn't care at all. There's no apathy. There's nothing there. Like
a friend of mine, who I made watch this, who had never seen it before, when we were rewatching it, was like blurring it with Brave New World in her mind, and she was saying. She thought at first when she saw the Eloy that they were all on Soma, like in Brave New World. In the future, everybody eats this drug that makes them all like complacent and dumb and all that. And she's like, oh, well, in the future, like the population's all just on drugs now because we're past the 1960s where drugs were coming. Now it's just like they're all just like drugged out hippies. So, and then she was like, oh, wait, she was waiting for like the Morlock to be like feeding them pills every morning and keeping them submissive. And nope, they're just
keeping the herd calm. No, it was, I don't know. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't agree that Weena is terrible actress in this. I mean, I've seen worse. No, I don't. I don't, because she's supposed to be playing, especially
is
now.
worse?
Okay, stop. Like you wrote us about freaking Rod, your lover Taylor, but like here we go. I thought Weena did for somebody who, now knowing the story behind her, I thought she did a okay job for somebody who did not have any previous acting experience. This is literally her debut acting experience.
Well,
So
I'll grant you, she nailed playing emotionless dumb blonde.
yeah, exactly.
She nailed it.
Exactly. So I also thought that it was weird that they were all blonde. I didn't realize they were all plastic wigs. I just thought it was bad hair design.
Well, it just looked. They looked.
It was
like
just
wigs
like,
to me.
yeah. I thought we had finally come up with the Aryan race. Then I realized, oh no, we're in a 60s movie, so they're all going to be blonde and gorgeous. So, and I disagree that she's unpretty. She's very pretty. She's a very good looking woman.
I just don't think she's that pretty. She's not like deformed or anything. But
no, but you made her sound deformed.
No, but
she's
like,
not
where's
like
Tippi Hedren when you need her?
Right?
Tippi Hedren
yeah.
There were a lot of good-looking blondes working in the 1960s, and they did
but
not
who's
need
going to
to
go
get-
for a sci-fi film?
Well, that's
exactly.
true. Doris Day wasn't going to have any of that, so
no.
Right. All right. Well, I have one more thing, and I don't know if I'm like pushing this too far or not. I'm sure you'll tell me. This time around, I felt like there was like a colonizer aspect of George's attitude toward the Eloi and the future.
Are you talking about trying to teach them?
Where, yeah, he makes this comment where he was like, oh, they're like the people that live in Bali that like are total illiterate savages, and they just need me to bring them like knowledge and intelligence, instead of saying, what can I do in the past to perhaps prevent this path?
Oh no, that's too complex a thought. I think. No, I think that's too
off.
complex a thought in 1960s.
It was like this aspect of like, I, as an Englishman, will bring them knowledge. And...
It's far more a colonizer thing than it is.
because the English weren't colonizers, or in real life. So how would that happen? No, but
that's what I'm saying. Am I reading too much into this?
Well, a little bit, because I think that I took it not as I mean, it's there for sure, but I took it more as, well, I think what John was saying is he's not going to very well step on a butterfly now and save the future. He knows what the future is. It's already gotten there hundreds and thousands of years in the future. It's not like it's a week from now, and he can, not kill Amy or whatever, next week and save the movie. But he, so I think that by going back to that time he already is familiar with, he can bring humanity back, or bring humankind back to some level of civilization, now that they're free of the Morlocks and all that. So I took it more as not him being the great white savior necessarily, as just this was a particular problem that he could solve, because he'd been there. He could go there. He could redeem himself. I get your reading of it, but I think they didn't lean into that a lot. And I think you're just using your 2024 glasses and seeing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it as like, oh, he wants to go back and try and help the Eloi avoid the mistakes of the past moving forward into the future.
I agree. But that's also what makes my last surprise question for you guys, I think, such a challenge. But we will get to that in just a few minutes. Right now, we're going to take a quick promo break, and then we'll come back for some favorites and a final discussion.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Turn your dial to find the frequency of the past.
Captain Midnight.
Where the classic stories of mysteries, sci-fi, thrillers, and suspense are found waiting to be heard once again.
Another case for Nick Carter, Master Detective.
You'll find a variety of those stories here, in their original form, where each episode takes you to another place or time.
The Man of Bronze, Doc Savage.
But only when you find the mystery frequency. Available everywhere.
The Shadow knows.
Why are you smiling like that?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay?
Okay.
Work is your new favorite.
Fine.
All right, and we're back, continuing our discussion of the 1960 classic, The Time Machine, which we've been poo-pooing it quite a bit, but we actually do really like it.
Really, you two have.
Yeah, you two have. Saying that my man, Rod, not act. It's time for Smiling's My Favorite, a time when we discuss our favorites from the film, and we're going to also go a little further into the time travel genre. But we're going to start with this movie and our favorite character first. Robert, why don't you start us off?
Favorite character, I like Philby or all the Philbys, I guess I should say. And what's fun, if you like myself had the DVD of this, one of the great bonus features is there was a weird documentary sequel mashup called The Time Machine: A Journey Back.
Is that on the DVD?
It's on the DVD. Yeah.
Not mine.
Oh my gosh.
It just, the first half of it is kind of learning what happened to the actual time machine prop and how it was discovered and restored. Then there's a weird little segment where Michael J. Fox shows up and talks about the DeLorean for a minute, and then he's out. And then the last 20 minutes or so, and they don't really set it up, and so I do kind of learn more about it later, but is a sequel, kind of a little coda to the film. And we actually see Rod Taylor and Alan Young and one of the other actors come back as their characters, but it was filmed like, gosh, I don't know, in the late 90s. I mean, so they'd aged. But it's a lovely little reunion of Wells and Philby in their future and still our past, that it's just loving it. It turns out, and it kind of shows up in this film after you've seen a documentary for 40 minutes, and all of a sudden Taylor walks over and gets in the time machine, and then like the special effects happen, and then all of a sudden Alan Young walks in, and they're doing this fictional thing now. They're not doing the documentary. But they had Powell had worked on a sequel film. They wanted to do a sequel to it that never actually got made. And so the scene that's about 20-ish minutes in this documentary is one of the scenes from what would have been this sequel movie.
Wow.
But
neat.
But much more poignant, because at this point, Rod Taylor and Alan Young are both quite a bit older, as they're meant to be. And it's very touching. It's a very touching scene. But in all three cases, even if you just watch our regular film, Young is such a fun, dynamic actor to watch, and his Scottish accent is a hoot, as we will learn if you've ever seen DuckTales and heard his Scrooge McDuck. But he very lively, kind of comic relief in this film. But his first appearance is great because he's the best friend character that we always have to have, so that the lead character has someone to explain everything to. But then when he comes back, in the World War I sequence, it's really very poignant, you know. And then we go a little bit further in the future, and we see that same character again a little bit later in his life. And so it was nice. I mean, the mannequin sequence is incredible, but I also liked the balancing of someone he knew appearing in some of these futures with him. It really made it much more human than just look at all our crazy new mod clothes and cars we have, and monorails. It was like, wow, there's somebody he knows and who remembers.
Well, and Philby even mentions the baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I gotta go home and see little, what is it, Charlie or something like
Jamie.
that? Or Jamie, that's it.
Yeah.
Gotta go see Jamie.
So just lovely. So I thought his character was, not only did I enjoy him because he was light, kind of comic relief in a serious movie, but he also gave a nice kind of emotional grounding to some of the time travel sequences that we wouldn't have just gotten from, flowers opening and closing and suns flying over through a skylight.
Yes.
Yep.
John, how about you? Who was your favorite character?
Well, I thankfully picked out multiples because Robert just took mine. Because I love the Philby character as well. But you're both going to apparently hate me for this. Weena, because
No.
Stop and listen, and maybe you'll learn.
Oh God.
I thought she was a strong female lead at the end. I thought she started. Stop. Look at you. Like, okay, so who joined him?
Stroke.
Who helped him in the end to try and defeat the Morlocks?
She ripped part of her sleeve off.
She still helped him. She was right there beside him trying to learn this stuff. She was the first one to take a step forward from the Eloi away from them towards him and what would be modern knowledge to her or for him, you know what I mean? Like that 19 or 1900s knowledge and bringing it to the Eloi who are apparently brain dead. And like she's taking that step out of her comfort zone to try and do something to help. She realizes that help is necessary. And she does it.
But it's not like a strong woman's role or a big.
It's the strongest one in this whole movie.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know.
There's
that
only
maid at the
two.
beginning was the housekeeper was pretty saucy. I don't know. I
think Mrs. Watchett could beat some more.
If she was in it more, I might have actually chosen her.
Right?
I mean that
like,
legitimately.
I like where you're going. I mean, if Yvette had been able to act, then we would have seen like her having some thoughts.
I agree.
Like,
I don't disagree with that.
It could have been moving to see her like make an effort, but instead she just was this robotic thing 2 steps behind him. I don't know.
I know, but it was okay, so it's 1960s. Yes, the man's working, the woman's not. The woman's at home barefoot and pregnant. 1960s. This is the best you're going to get for the 1960s. I mean, she's the only person out of all the Eloi.
Ingrid Bergman and Joan Crawford and Katharine Hepburn would have something to say about that. And
I understand that. I understand that, but what I'm saying is this is what's portrayed to us on this film.
Right.
And this is the strongest one that you're going to find inside this film. You already took Philby, so I can't go with him. So
well, you can because that is my favorite character. Surprisingly enough,
Philby was awesome.
So we subdivide him like one of you can have 1960s Philby and I'll have like World War I Philby, and the other one of you can have Victorian Philby. There we go.
I'll take Victorian Philby.
Yes, I would. I don't know. I like. I love the scene where we've moved forward in time. I think we're in the 60s, and where George's house used to be is now a garden with a sundial, and it says, and Jamie had put it there because of his father's love for his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And who doesn't want a friend like that is faithful to you even though you disappear, you never come back. And he believed in him and was still his friend. So I think Philby was absolutely the best character that wasn't George. This one I think is, I don't know, could be really tough. Favorite scene. John, what's your favorite scene?
We already talked about it, so I'll make it brief. The mannequin scene. The whole thing with the mannequin, absolutely by far my favorite.
Robert, how about you?
Same.
Yep. Same for me. Not just strictly the mannequin. I love that whole time travel sequence.
Oh, everything. The candle melting and all of it was just breathtaking. Yeah.
Yeah. And him, I like that there was a little element of him like figuring out how this thing works.
Yes. Right.
Because it's not like you could really test it or anything. It's like you just
like when he stopped in whatever time zone it was and he spun around in circles, he skidded out basically.
Oh, because he stopped too fast.
Yeah, he stopped too fast. I thought that was great.
Yes, and like he had smoke on his clothes, and so I thought that was funny. All right. Favorite H.G. Wells book or film? Robert.
I picked one of each. Favorite H.G. Wells movie is The Invisible Man from 1933.
Oh my God.
I
with
love,
my favorite actress ever.
I know. I love the Universal horror movies. I love director James Whale. I've talked about him before on this podcast. It's another movie like this one that the special effects are still awesome all these years later. And it's funny, it's scary, it's atmospheric. I just love that movie, and we still watch it about once a year. It is fantastic.
Yes.
And then my favorite book is not any of his science fiction books. I've read several of them, but I don't enjoy them as much as I do his not science fiction stuff. Mainly because, kind of toward what John was saying earlier, his books are very politically driven, and there's a lot of talking about sociology and about politics and about all this different stuff that Wells was fascinated by. But we know when we're watching either Dr. Moreau or Invisible Man, we don't want to hear about the class structure of England or
Right.
whatever. And Wells does do that. But he has a wonderful book called Mr. Britling Sees It Through. It was written in 1916, and it's one of his kind of comic novels about contemporary English life. And I've read a couple of them. They're fun in different ways. But this one is so beautiful because it was written in 1916, as I said, and it has 3 sections, and it's basically about World War I. The first section of the book is meeting the Britling family. This American journalist comes over and meets Mr. Britling, and it's kind of this fun send-up of a middle-class English family at the time, and how they're stuffy and how they're pompous and different things, and lots of kind of an overview of English society of that era. Then the middle section takes place in 1915, and the young Britling boy has gone to Europe to fight in World War I and dies. And the German exchange student they had living with them is over there, and he has also died on the opposite side. And it becomes this sort of war exploration of World War I. But what's fascinating about it is it was written in 1916 by Wells, and of course the war would not end for 2 more years. So a lot of the discussions between the characters about, like, I wonder what's going to happen. Well, in our hindsight, we know that, well, yes, how it turns out, so to speak, but they didn't, and it's very poignant and moving because they're like, I don't know, are we still going to have an England? And all the kind of smugness and pomposity from the first section that was so humorous now is taken on this really kind of melancholy tinge. And then the last section is set basically when the book was written, and Mr. Britling writes a letter to the parents of this kid who was the German exchange student who they knew personally, but who's on one of the enemy now, apologizing and being sorry for the son's death. And they knew him, and he was such a great kid. And what can the countries do to come together? And why are people so horrible? And what can mankind do why can't we just all be friends? I mean, basically, but in a really beautiful, poetic way, and knowing that it was written while the war was raging. At one point, Wells had to evacuate from London because they were afraid there was going to be attacks in London. So he went out to the countryside to finish his book. It's lighthearted at the beginning, but then it becomes very moving as it goes along. But it's a fantastic book. And I don't even know if it's still in print. You can buy anthologies of all of his sci-fi greatest hits, War of the Worlds and Invisible Man and all those. But this one's worth looking at. Mr. Britling Sees It Through.
Oh, I have never even heard of that. It sounds just amazing.
Well, Wells, God, he wrote like 80 some books, and he wrote science books, philosophy and science fiction and light novels. And I mean, he wrote all kinds of stuff. So, but he's only known now for his science fiction, which is kind of funny because he did that he started with his science fiction stuff as a way to explore his social ideas. And then he kind of got over it and turned his back on it after writing 5 or 6 of the greatest science fiction novels of all time. Then he's like, I'm done with that. Let's move on to some other stuff.
Right. Let's do something different. All right, John, how about you? Favorite H.G. Wells book or film or both?
I did film and any of the reimaginings, original War of the Worlds. I love the story. I like the story a lot. And it's really good. I enjoy it. In fact, I just watched something that came from MGM Plus called War of the Worlds, which is a serial, and it's okay. I mean, it's not my favorite War of the Worlds, but it's okay. It's definitely
worth watching.
Definitely reimagining. It was only season 1, so now I either have to get MGM Plus or just be left to wonder. So I'll probably be left to wonder.
Listeners, you can go back to 2022 when we did an episode on Minority Report versus War of the Worlds. And
was that long ago?
Yeah. And Dayton actually changed my worldview on the Steven Spielberg version of that. So definitely travel back in time yourself and check that out.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would say I cheated, but it's my episode, so I can do what I want. I actually chose, you can find on YouTube the Orson Welles radio broadcast of the War of the Worlds. And I love a good radio show. There's a great channel on Sirius. I can't think of what it is, but they play radio classics and the old, comedy shows, and then they'll do a thriller on, I think, Friday nights. And our WVXU, our local classic channel, does it on the weekends. And this is just, you can really see how people could have been confused and thought that, like, holy crap, we're being invaded and we need to head for the hills. It's really, really immensely entertaining. So you can get it on vinyl. It does exist on vinyl, but you can go to YouTube and check it out. But for movies, I would say this version of The Time Machine is my favorite of the movie choices. So now here's a couple of extra questions that I threw at the boys. At the end of the film, Philby and Mrs. Watchett noticed that George returned to the Eloy, and the only thing he took with him were 3 books. And you never find out what 3 books they were. So you're left to wonder, what 3 books would you take? John, what 3 books are you taking with you to get the Eloys act together?
So I started off by just naming off my favorite book series to do this, and I was like, oh, you know what? No, let me think about this for a minute. If I'm going back to a population of people who are lobotomized, according to you guys, which, I mean, they're terrible, but they really don't have any understanding of anything. I decided to change my ways a little bit, and I decided to actually pick out 3 useful books for them to hopefully, I don't know, help them do better. Like, I mean, because apparently the Morlocks were putting the fruit out for them because the fruit just showed up in the bowls every day, and they probably need to learn how to do this.
Appears here.
Right. So, so my 3 books are The Way Things Works by David McCulley.
We used to have those.
Yep. It's a illustrated guide to basic principles of machines and technologies that could help the Eli like rediscover like mechanical knowledge, right? So how to build and stuff. The next one was The Complete Wilderness Survival Manual by Hugh McManners. It would teach you the essential skills such as farming and hunting and tool making and shelter building, crucial for the Eloy to regain self-sufficiency and independence in the from the Morlocks, because they're not necessarily all dead. They just stopped that one exit from happening. So you don't know. And then on the, I don't know, esoteric side, it's not really esoteric, but on the other side, I would the Republic by Plato or Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It would help them develop a sense of morality. So if somebody's drowning, they realize, oh my goodness, I should help. Or leadership, like somebody should take a step forward and go, no, we don't do that anymore. And purpose and just fostering a more cohesive and enlightened society. So I chose the very heady style of book choices.
I love the practicality of your choices as well. Good list.
If I had a fourth one, I would have chosen the Britannica encyclopedia.
Oh.
But I only had 3, so I went with these.
I was going to say, that's really stretching it. Robert, what is your list? I know you were editing right up until like the last second.
I'm writing stuff down now. Going, it's a tough one. But I've nailed it down. I think I'm going to say that they probably need a Boy Scout manual. Or something like that. Maybe Girl Scouts. I know I did Boy Scouts. It's got the morality a little bit, be brave and trustworthy and loyal and all that. And it also has like how to build a fire and how to do stuff. I love John's idea of The Way Things Work. Had that book also. It's in here somewhere. But I don't know if they're ready to build suspension bridges yet. They need to learn how to like set up a tent,
Yeah.
And, like,
yeah. Well, that's in my survival guide.
Maybe it's okay, a scouting manual, and then probably some kind of like McGuffey's first reader or beginning reading book so that they can read the things that they're doing and maybe also learn to write so they can have their own language and communication. And then lastly, I just think they need something funny and entertaining because I don't know what kind of entertainment these people have. So
They've got
I would
Rod.
pull like what?
They've got Rod.
They've got Rod.
There you go. Yeah. No, I would pull, I don't know, like a P.G. Woodhouse novel, one of the Jeeves and Wooster books, or just something light and funny, I don't know. And then that way they could understand what entertainment was. It's not all just, watching people drown and eating gourds. There's more to life than that,
I thought about doing that too.
Those would be my three.
Excellent. Good list. Well,
it's your question, so I'm expecting some really high quality answers now from this.
I like my list. I issued practicality because I feel like Rod Taylor has the skills so he can teach him how to like build a campfire and
he's a scientist.
I'm relying on him to provide a lot of that, fill a lot of that in. But so my books are also The Republic by Plato.
Get out.
Yeah. Because they need to know how to
the ethics
live
of
as a
everything.
group. I also chose one of my favorite books, Cosmos by Carl Sagan, because I feel like they need to know that the world is bigger than just the world. And then finally, The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster.
I love that one. Yeah, that can be my funny one. I'm switching it to that. Great answer.
Because it's all about, the pushing away of apathy and learning how to, find curiosity and develop your knowledge. And so that was my list. And I certainly hope that our listeners will give us their 3 books in our comments section. But we have one more question for the boys. Characters have traveled through time using a wide variety of methods. I tried to Google how many time travel movies there were. There's definitely more than 300.
Yeah.
I couldn't get a definitive number. But some of the methods that have been used are, of course, a DeLorean, a TARDIS, a time turner necklace, a hot tub, an infinity stone, and what we've been talking about tonight, a time machine. What would your preferred method of time travel be? So, Robert, how do you want to travel through time?
Oh, me first. Well, first I was going to get all poetic and say that my favorite time travel methods are memory and imagination.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great?
You are grounded.
I know.
Go
No,
to your
but
room.
no. I know. That was my fakey answer. My legit answer. 'Cause it is a tough one because and I love time travel stories, even though the bootstrap paradox makes my head explode every time and I scream. But anyway,
yes, we will talk about this, or we have talked about this, or some version of us talks about this on the Time After Time episode.
But I will never not watch or read a time travel thing, even though they always make me scream.
Yes.
But no, I really like. There's a children's book by one of my favorite children's authors. His name is Edward Eager, and the book is called The Time Garden. Although it is spelled Thyme, like the herb. And,
Love it.
Herb. And in fact, the children, with the help of a magical creature in this book, actually do go into a large ornamental time garden, and different types of time, they will break it and smell it, and the little magical creature will help them get to different historical periods in time. And it is just delightful. And I actually have a bunch of varieties of time I'm growing. I still haven't gone anywhere yet, but I make really good soup.
Awesome. Love it. John, how are you traveling through time?
I would have to be using the time and relative dimension in space method, or otherwise known as TARDIS. I truly believe that's the only way to travel in luxury through time and space.
And which doctor will be?
Yeah.
Oh, the current one.
Oh, really?
Yes, I love him so much. Oh my goodness.
Putting aside the doctor, and yes, we love him, but the actual TARDIS, though, so like the big white bubble thing is like that.
No. I like the modern TARDIS. Like it's kind of like the bubbles on the inside. The last two Doctors have kind of used it. Guadi's is really nice. So I kind of like that one where it's new, so it's very blank, and it has a jukebox in it right now. So and apparently he just realized he doesn't have chairs in the Christmas episode. So yeah. So oh, sorry. Y'all need to watch it. It's really good. But that's how I would travel, and I would use the modern era stuff. Like I liked the old bubble thing, but I like what they're doing with the modern era with like, there's I have a swimming pool. I didn't know I had a swimming pool. Like it just has rooms. So that's what I would want to do.
Nice. I personally would be traveling through a wormhole in the USS Enterprise. So at least if there was a problem, I would have my crew there to help me get myself out of it.
I've got a sonic screwdriver.
Well, this is true, but
that would be fun. Like we can mash those two together. That'd be great.
It's the mashup that we didn't know we needed. All right, it is time for our final words and rating. Robert, what is your final word on The Time Machine?
It is a fun movie to pop in when you want some great, mid-century entertainment from Hollywood. And I think they did justice to Wells's book too. So liked it a lot, and I'm going to give it a 3 reel rating. It's not one of the all-time classic films, but it is definitely worth watching. And if it's the kind of thing you like, you'll like it a lot.
Oh,
awesome.
For sure.
John, what about you?
I give it 3.5 reels. I really liked this one a lot. Like when I watched it again, I was like really entertained the whole way through. If you want 90 minutes of your life to be spent usefully, this is not it, but it's better spent watching this than other turds that are out there, particularly the hot tub ones.
Oh my goodness. I gave it 4 film reels for Rod Taylor alone.
So Rod Taylor got 4 film reels. What does the film actually get?
4. I would say 3.5 is a fair estimation, just because.
So Rod 4, movie 3.5.
Yvette and the Eloy just drag it
way down. Way down.
But it's a great concept. It's a great telling of the story. It's a million gajillion times better than the remake. Don't waste your time. Stick with this one, and have a good old time. So I would like to thank my guests for taking this trip through time with me. So thank you, Robert.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was time well spent.
And thank you, Disney John.
Always a pleasure. I'm going to hop on back to where I was at 10 minutes ago.
And as always, we'd like to thank our listeners. Thank you for listening. You're the reason we're here. Please share your thoughts on social media. We're on Facebook, X, and Blue Sky. Tell us what 3 books you would take forward to the Eloy and what your preferred time travel method is. Please share the podcast with your friends and rate and review on your preferred listening platform. Join our Patreon for exclusive content. Recent episodes include reviews of Yesterday and Spirited Away. And here on Docking Bay, we have the upcoming episodes Time After Time, The Dark Crystal, and The Thing 1951 version versus the 1982 version. And that will round out our sci-fi month. And then we're going to start a series called Disney Through the Decades. We will be discussing, as we said, different Disney movies for each decade. And you will get to help us choose our 1970s Disney animated film. We will have polls up on social media and Patreon. So help us choose what movie we're going to highlight. As always, watch more movies, and remember, physical media is better than streaming.
The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.